Hey everybody, my name is Angie Morenga. You're watching Just Angie, where we have the most amazing conversations. And today I have a guest, a person that I honor very, very much. Even attracted him from far. So I'm really, really honored that he has come to be here with us today. But we've respected and watched you from afar and honored you greatly. And I want you to know that from the sound of he's a great leader, doing great things in leadership, which is going to tell us all about them. So, Cosma, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Angie.
Please look into that camera, introduce yourself to my guests, and then we're going to have a conversation.
Yes, hello. My name is Cosma Gatere. I am a leadership specialist, leadership and communication, and I essentially focus on helping leaders in organizations, no matter whether they're for-profit, non-profit, or even faith-based organizations, achieve exceptional and sustained results through focusing on what you call non-financial drivers of success. Okay. Everybody focuses on the bottom line, on the numbers. I try and tell people, you need to look at issues of relationships, look at issues of people, look at issues of trust, of your communication ability. And you find that you have much more sustainable results. You have much more longer growth if you do that. And I've been working both in corporate, also a lay pastor, and do a lot of work training boards and organizational leaders.
Amazing. And you know, for that, just even need a massive clap. Also, first women for being able to articulate it. How long have you been in leadership? And also, I wanted to answer the question as you answer that one. Is I've always seen you. So I was asking you how long you've been with Nairobi Chapel, because you've been very consistent and very loyal. And you said how many years, Cosma?
Well, actually, from the very beginning, which is 35 years now.
Because
I actually, when Nairobi Chapel was actually started way back in the last quarter four of 1989, I've been there really from the beginning. So involved in different aspects of leadership, with youth leadership, as an elder, as chairman of the elders board, as chairman of the relocation team, now as a trustee, as a member of the preaching team, and doing many other, leadership areas. So, yeah, that has been a great journey. And for me, very many valuable relationships are formed, very many lessons I've learned. So that has been great. And seeing everything God has managed to do in and through us through all these years.
Why do you think why do you think you've been loyal? Why do you think you stayed? Because it's a trait that we don't see a lot these days. It's a trait. People are always moving on to the next thing, moving on to something else. And sometimes it's valuable. I mean, it's valid, that people want to do different things. But to stay and to serve one vision in different expressions for 35 years, that's not something that's just...
Yes, it is something I really thank God for. As the scripture says, this is the Lord's doing, and it's marvelous in our sight. And I just think that God has, managed to use me. But I think that I was really attracted by the vision. Here was a young church that had a very clear perspective about having impact in. We were kind of, when we started, sandwiched between university, right at the beginning on Mamlaka Road. There was all 12 on this side and the box on this side. So young university students. And we said that these are people who are really asking questions at that stage in life. And beyond the academics, they're really looking and being formed into future leaders. Anybody who makes it to university in Kenya is a very small slice of the population. So if you can shape them and impact them at that point, you actually can have transformative impact in their lives. So we had a lot of programs. I initially started our youth outreach program, a fellowship we called SALT, Serving a Living Transformer.
Yes, I remember SALT.
Remember SALT? Yeah. I was the first patron of SALT.
Really? My goodness, because maybe I would find out things I didn't know. I knew SALT. I think I've even preached at SALT. But my goodness, you started that.
Yes. Right
Amazing.
Right from the very beginning,
Wow.
So and when you look at everything God has done in and through these people today, these are people who are doing amazing things. I mean, you even feel humbled that you've even had some small input in their lives. Because they took the little that we did and grew it, and it went even more beyond what we could think or imagine.
Wow.
So God has been faithful, and we've seen, of course, grown from there to other branches, both locally in the region, in Africa, overseas, and outside, internationally, and have had managed to have an impact. So this is the Lord's doing, and we really are grateful for what He's done.
I'm so grateful, but so much. I think that's just amazing. SALT also is so, what did you say it means? Serving
a living transformer.
A living transformer. who is Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Wow. Hey. And you know, we're the salt of the earth.
Yes.
But for real, I think, like you said, the vision was real. So I think one of the leadership lessons I'm picking from you is have a vision and make it clear.
Yeah.
Know, understand what the vision is and make it clear. And in a way, I think, is also a vision that you can communicate to others. Because it might be clear to you, but it's not easily communicable. You see the way that you even gave out what you do. That takes time, I guess, to get into that clarity of exactly what you're doing. But not only to have a clear vision, but to be able to articulate it clearly, and then it's understood clearly. Then you take the vision and run with it, which is confirming Habakkuk as well.
Yes.
That when you write the vision down, those who see it will then pick it and run with it. So you've been running with that vision.
Correct.
That is so much. That's so amazing. So I'm sure you've been in leadership for as many years as those years, as now 35 or even more. I just want you to share with us what are the things that you've picked around leadership? What's the conversation you can have about leadership, the positives, the negatives, whatever you want to speak about. And now you're writing a book, so you could bring it in there about legacy.
Yeah. The lessons I would say I've learned in leadership are from my journey. Both good and bad, mistakes I've made, things I've seen from people, and both strong leaders I've worked with and worked under, and also other people that I have seen. This is there's a different way of doing this.
Okay.
As I said, many leaders today, and I've worked in corporate, I've served on many organizations, both in executive positions, in non-executive positions as a board member. I've seen that very many leaders today in organizations are trained to look at the technical. So they're taught in business school and so on. Here is the way you need to go. And look at the hard numbers. Look at the facts. People use language such as, it's my way or the highway. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. So people are told to be very brute and focus on the numbers. And if people don't toe the line, you whip them into line. Unfortunately, they fail to realize you're dealing with people.
Yeah.
Your customers are people.
Yeah.
Your stakeholders are people. And that your biggest successes will come through success in dealing with people, which is managing relations, and as you manage relationships, that then translates into better numbers,
yes,
and long-term growth. But they will admit 70 to 80%, depending on the research, of their problems come from people. It's not for those technical things they're looking at.
No.
And yet that is the one thing they are not equipped at, either in business school or whatever they are. So they're technically competent, but relationally deficient.
Yes.
Yeah. And yet people are relational beings. So they do not know how to. So you find people are slave drivers, and there's burnout, there's stress, there's mistrust. So you talk to a leader who's got a brilliant, degree, a lot of good numbers, very good qualifications. You tell him, so how do you build trust? And you lose him. It suddenly becomes inarticulate.
Yes.
You see, how do you communicate vision? Oh, and he doesn't know quite what he's saying. Ask him to do a balance sheet, he'll do it for you on the spot.
He'll do it for you on the spot.
I see.
Tell you the numbers, tell you the trends, tell you everything that's going on.
Quarter three, this year we've gone up by, and so on.
Next year we'll do this.
But hang on a minute. How do you engage with communicators and with stakeholders and get buy-in? One of the biggest things that I've learned more recently is how do leaders differentiate between two sorts of licenses that they get? We're all taught in business school and in business. Get registered, get what is called a business or a legal license. This is what you see in the boardroom. We're registered, we've paid all the fees and so we're legally registered. We're not a fly-by-night operation. They fail to realize that business license is different from what is called social license.
That is so
social
true.
License is the
powerful.
Permission you get from your stakeholders, from the community to engage and to operate within them.
Yeah.
And when people lose social license, they lose a very big thing that leaders fail to realize, which is called legitimacy.
Yes.
So many leaders are only earning the legitimacy through legal mandate. They forget that social legitimacy trumps legal legitimacy, and that is about being relational. It's about bringing in stakeholders. It is about communicating vision, being trustworthy, rebuilding trust where it has been broken. And those are the dynamics which I find that leaders are deficient in. So I spend a lot of time training boards, training organizations, because sometimes, it has to filter from the bottom, from the top down, and helping leaders realize there's something called relational results, which is different and superior to transactional results. And if you look at almost any sector, look at schools, look at sports. If you look at a school, the best predictor of success in a school is the quality of the relationship between the student and the teacher.
teachers.
It's not whether they have smart boards or have laptops or have. It's that relationship.
It's the quality of the relationship. And you'll always hear people say, "This teacher changed my life." Even big stars.
I remember from high school now. It was decades ago.
Really?
A certain teacher, in Form 3 geography, how come? I don't even remember what they're teaching me in geography. I remember what they did for me.
What they did for you as a person.
That is a relational result, not transactional. Unfortunately, everything today is transactional. So if leaders can learn to achieve results by being relational, they'll find it's more sustainable. It is much more enduring. It's good for them. It's good for the people they're leading as well as good for society.
Yeah, but I find also, as you're saying that, I'm thinking it must be hard to do.
It is.
Because if I look at even just as a Kenyan society, we're not very trusting of anybody in leadership, even in organizations. Yeah, organizational leadership. You come in, that's the boss. Us guys, there's a line like the boss hangs out over there. As we hang out over here, even coming down to departments, yeah. As soon as you've been running with the pack, then you're promoted. You become the leader. Guys are not. No one is now. The friendships sort of have ended. So I think it must be very difficult to build trust and to let your guard down, both for the people who are being led and for the leader. I think that must be one of the most difficult things, because we have to build trust.
Yes.
And must be the hardest thing to do. I can come in every day, let's just do this, tell you do this, but to build trust, to build a relationship, because a relationship is also complicated. So what happens when this relationship is not working anymore? It's going to also affect us. So I'm sure it's hard for people to let their guard down on both sides.
It is. And many leaders, I find, in fact, have to unlearn what they have learned in order to learn some new practices.
How to be a relational leader.
Because sometimes, as they say, you can't teach or dog new tricks. But many of them, they've just learned the wrong systems.
Yes.
And you find that one of the things you said, about relationships, a leader needs to learn to be what? Vulnerable. When you talk about how you open and build trust, but be vulnerable. Just say, what? I want to be transparent and an open book. You want to be able to say, yes, I made a mistake. You want to be able to learn from others. You want people to look at you and say, follow what I do, not just what I say. Many people, it's the other way around.
Follow what I say, but not what I do.
What I do. And they don't realize that most culture in organizations, every organization has a culture. Culture is more caught than taught.
It's more caught,
It's taught, just like in family values with your children. How do you learn things like generosity in the family? How do you like to... I don't remember, my parents, maybe you don't remember yours, sitting you down and saying, now, children, here are 3 points on generosity. Point number 1. No, you just see your parents being generous. You see your mother giving people. This is the way life hosting. This is hospitality. This is the way life is lived.
Yes, they modeled it to us.
Yeah, and then you wonder, how come these leaders never manage to model? So no wonder the culture is not being caught, because it's about something that exists on the boardroom, our culture, our values, but it's not being practiced.
But it's not practiced.
So they look at this,
nobody can see it.
What you actually doing, the time you show up, the way you handled,
that's not how you do it.
So you know what? We follow what you do rather than what you say is on the. Then you find the culture becomes toxic.
Yes.
There's enmity between the different departments, and the organization then doesn't perform, numbers begin to tank. So they should realize that those relational issues of culture, of relationships, of trust, of communicating vision, of being something, a big word nowadays, authentic. Nowadays, the Gen Zs call it being real. Just being real. And no one wants you to be perfect, but they want you to be real. To be real, authentic.
And to own up to where you made your mistakes. And say this is a mistake.
And balancing two things. In fact, that's a biblical model of leadership. One of the Bible, Israel's biggest leaders was David. What does it say about David? How did he shepherd? He shepherded Israel with integrity of heart, and with skilled hands. So you look at competence, but you look at character. Today, we all only look at competence.
Only competence,
we
not
forget character. But character and competence in the biblical mindset always go together.
Yeah.
You see, even when we interview, what are your 3 references? Did you first class honors? Competence. My past job, I took sales from 10% to competence. Hang on a minute. Did your sales go up because of fudging the numbers, or because of slave driving your people?
Or did you give bribes?
Or did you,
was there corrupt something?
Exactly, in order to
these results.
So character. So you find people coming competent. You're not talking about their brains. You're talking about their character. You see, so you must look at the character dimension. We've got to add purpose to profit. You've got to look at money,
so powerful.
not just meaning. You see, you've got to look at issues of conscience and not just, the cash return. So what is your conscience, and what is those kind of values? And you talked about, me, I'm just almost finishing a book on legacy. It's called Legacy, Leaving an Inheritance that is more enduring than money. And I often ask men are the bigger problem with this than ladies. What will you leave behind? What will you bequeath that goes beyond money?
Beyond money,
because
beyond the financial.
Because men believe that, my job as a man, I'm providing. They say, okay, I get that, and many of them then even bring in the Bible. Oh, a good man leaves an inheritance
for his children's children.
So, even the Bible says, Then I say, okay, hang on a minute. What does the Bible mean when it talks about that word inheritance? Is it talking about cash and money? Or do a word study of inheritance. It is a much bigger, much more meaningful word. One of the best inheritances, and there are several points I raised in that book, but I can just mention 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. I actually raised 7. The least important, and the last of which is money. What are these other 6? And many people, they draw a blank. They say, honestly, so what are you talking about? Because they were taught that the only thing you need to do
is leave money,
and you get your money
provided
by fair means or foul.
Whatever means.
Yeah, as long as they leave the money. And you don't realize Proverbs 3:33 that says God blesses the household of the righteous, but he leaves a curse on the home of the wicked. So you have left people a lot of money with a curse. Rather than leaving
we have watched it
a bit little than with righteousness. Now, one of the things that you realize when you look at this,
what you have to say it
that's
again,
Proverbs 3:33.
I realize it. Proverbs 3:33.
Yeah. Okay. So many people don't realize this, and the Bible also says in the book, I think it's Proverbs 28, that riches do not last forever, nor does a crown, rulership and so on, endure for all generations.
Yeah.
So if all you left your children was riches
money,
or some title, and it does not last forever. So is that an inheritance? That's why my subtitle is an inheritance that endures beyond. It's about enduring inheritance.
Wow.
You're talking about what? Things like character.
Character is important.
Your children character. How about the inheritance of a good name?
I was going to say a name is
good
something.
Name. And I've seen people, doors open simply because of the name. You're a son of so, you're the daughter of so and so. Wow. Yeah. Open red carpet.
Just
simply
opens, rolls
because
out.
You bear the name.
Yeah.
Not because, and say, if you're the son of so and so, if you're the daughter of so and so, just look at that. That's an inheritance. It is open for you. Material benefits simply because of the character of your parent.
And
you see? So one of the things you can bequeath your children by living that way, you are actually giving them a great
inheritance,
open
that
doors.
Endures.
And if you look in the Bible, the relationship between David and Jonathan. Jonathan unfortunately died, early in battle.
Yes.
But then David becomes king. He goes and says, "Is there anybody left of the household of Jonathan that I can show kindness of Saul's home, that I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" And they found Mephibosheth.
Yeah.
What does it say? Mephibosheth ate at the king's table for the rest of his life.
Imagine.
So somebody who would never have approached, just because of the name, that you had a forefather somewhere called Jonathan, and he was a man of character. Anybody who comes from that bloodline, come and eat at my table.
Come and be blessed.
Yeah. Just how much money is that worth? You see,
that is enduring beyond.
It is enduring.
That is enduring beyond.
You're blessing your child from the grave.
Imagine.
Yeah.
You're blessing your child from you have passed on, and the child is still receiving blessings.
And also, it says in Colossians 1:16, Christ, is the creator of all things. He created all things in heaven and on earth, visible
and invisible.
Yes. Now, many of us think that the only things that are real are the things that are visible,
that we can see.
How about this invisible sphere?
It is so created. Powerful.
So when we look at things like now, the things I'm mentioning, trust, character, love, beauty, faith. When the Bible says faith, hope and love abide, but the greatest of these is love. How heavy is love? What's the color? Hope. How many kilos of faith? How tangible is it? Made of wood or steel? It is intangible, but it is real. When there's love. Some people realize
Cosma,
sometimes they say that maybe they realize that when love is there. Sometimes even realize when love is not there. When someone is now been exed, and so on. You realize something has gone. It's intangible, but it's there. So are we passing on these things? And the key point we're saying here is that what you pass on is not just what you have, but who you are. If you pass on what you have, but not who you are, you've left your children an inheritance that will not endure, because it will be squandered. And most research finds that wealth, no matter how much, can be squandered within 3 generations, no matter how many billions. So if you think that you've provided 3 generations, and some I've even seen even squandered in less, and this is, we're talking billions. So if you think that I've provided for my children, now 3 generations, when you have a family gathering over Christmas, 3 generations, the children running around, 3 generations, yeah. You can see people are going to mess up your, and
there's the parents and the grandchildren.
So somebody in that gathering is going to mess up your inheritance right there. So if that was all that your life was about,
it's going to be done. No, because we have to give it. It's gone in 3 generations.
So was that all
like
that
a cloud of smoke?
That a man's job is. Where are the other values that last much longer? Did you even teach your kids what I went through in order to acquire this? You passed on the cash without the character, the money without the meaning, the profit without the purpose. It will be squandered. And then also, I think there's a passage that people forget in. First, it's in Luke 12. I really find that fascinating when Jesus says that a man's life does not consist of the abundance of possessions. And then he goes on to give the parable of the rich fool. And if you remember the rich fool, he had a farmer, he built bigger barns, and then he said, now let me sit back, let me enjoy my life, and so on.
Fill my storehouses.
Exactly. And look at this, you see, Jesus never accuses him of dishonesty. So he was honest. You don't add that to the text. He acquired his work legitimately. He was hardworking. He was a good entrepreneur because he could, and a good harvest, he knows how to get a good bumper harvest.
How to store it.
And then he's storing, no post-harvest losses, as they say nowadays. And he's also enjoying his retirement. Let me sit back and enjoy everything from a modern perspective. Tick, 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 tick. Jesus looks at him and says, you fool. Wow. What is he seeing?
I know.
That we're not seeing.
Yeah.
And then he says that now comes the killer.
Yeah.
Whose will this be when you're gone and your soul is required of you this day? So when you talk about the soul, the vertical relationship between him and God was wanting. So he was focusing on possessions, but he was not focusing about his relationship. So his vertical relationship was missing. Then who else in the community, the horizontal relationship, the people around him? Wasn't there a widow, an orphan, a child you could bless with your money? There was nobody. It was all, if you read,
it was all you.
He says, look what I have done. I will store up for myself. It was all me, myself, and I. So it's interesting to see that somebody can be hardworking, honest, rich, but foolish.
Yeah.
And many of us today, our legacy is about being hardworking, trying to be honest, trying to be rich. We forget that actually that is the path to what Jesus says is foolishness. Very tangible, but nothing intangible. And the one question Jesus asked him was the intangible aspects, the relationship with God, relationship with intangible. But very tangible. The barn is big, the harvest is big, all focusing on the material, not focusing on the material.
And then you're going today, because I said and your very life, your life as you build the silos,
remember,
you are off.
Yeah.
You're not going to be here. These silos, you shall see them no more. You are going. And then now you're seeing 3 generations done. If you haven't, no, we better learn to live for what is important.
Yeah. And that is, so if readers can actually learn. And then also, by the way, one key point I mentioned in that book on legacy is that legacy isn't something you wait until you're 75, 85, you bring your children around and say, now you're getting this hamper.
Yeah.
No, legacy is something you start building now.
I know.
So Jonathan and his relationship with David, the character, he was not waiting until he's 85.
No.
As a young man, David and Jonathan, they say they had a very good friendship. He saw there's something in this man. That already was the legacy.
Yeah.
So legacy is what you're building in your children's lives now and how you're doing it by your own life. You see, when God blesses the home of the righteous, your own life of righteousness, which is right living with God and with man, that is the legacy. When you're 25, 35, 45, don't wait till you're 85. So the idea of saying, I'll write my will, but I'm not yet 85, or I'm going to this one, going to get a plot, that's not what legacy is about.
Or we don't teach, because I think another big problem is we haven't taught our children. I mean, our parents, okay, let me say about me. They didn't teach us what to do, how to do it, when to do it, the struggle. Do you know the things now I get like aha moments about my late dad?
Yes.
Because he never said them, but I'm like, That was, as I realized it, first of all, education was important to this man. Why? When I look back, education changed his life. But he never really said it.
Yes.
Now is when I'm coming to realization, education was important because it was the turning point of his life. When he got an education, he changed his whole life. I'm beginning to see and think, what did he value? But he never told us.
Yeah.
He never told us, and or maybe then even we never asked. So I don't blame it all about him. But I feel that that's something that we need to do. Like, why do I work so hard? Yeah, what am I trying to do for you? Why? How did I build this wealth? How do we grow it? What are the secrets?
Correct.
What has separated me? Because you see, even for us, and I talk about even like my father's generation, they came from the village and they didn't have anything, but they made something.
Yes.
That already has 15 lessons
Already.
of how did you get out of this situation and come here? Were you afraid? Were you scared to try? Did you think you would fail? He had no fallback plan. No fall. There was zero fall. If you fall, you fall. So you should have told us about the fallback plan. But I love what you're saying, because what now it helps us to do is to do things differently, and to communicate and to say what it is that we want to say to our children. That's when is the book going to be ready, Cosma?
In another in advanced stages, and I go to publishing. So in another 1 or 2 months, it should be done.
And will it be available, at everywhere books are, and even at chapel? If people would want it, they can get it at chapel. I'm so grateful. This conversation has been great. I've even looked. I always wonder, hey, some scriptures in the Bible. How come I didn't see it? I've never seen that one of Proverbs 3, because it's good, because a lot of people are gaining wealth by ill means.
By ill means, yes.
And they think it's okay. And maybe nobody's told them it's okay. Sometimes we assume things. We make a lot of assumptions that people know, then this is not the way to make the money. Because first of all, you come in, everybody's doing it. So that's number one excuse. Everyone is doing it. And this is the only way we can get ahead. Stop telling us other stories. But now when you look at the repercussions of God blessing the righteous
and cursing the wicked.
And it's a real curse. We have seen it.
With lots of money and a curse. That's not a blessing.
And the curse, even if the money is in billions, it is going to go. It's not going to bless them. It's not going to help them, because it's based on the wrong principles. It's not based on righteousness. So it's rather you build your wealth righteously, and it's smaller than other people, because you leave them with blessings. And then I love the addition of the character, the name, the integrity, and we shall find out the fourth other things when we read the book. But I'm so grateful. I'm really honored. Honestly, I don't know, I joined chapel, I can't even remember which year now. I don't know, my daughter was 2, so that's okay. She's now 20 something. But you were there before, but we've always watched you. We've always seen you. We've always been around. Then Nairobi Chapel split into not split, multiplied, and then we went with like Mavuno. But I've always seen you around, and you're a true testament of loyalty and really great leadership. So I'm looking forward to reading the book, and this will be so good. And the fact that you're ministering to men. We have a lot of people ministering to women, but very few people ministering to the man. So we're really grateful for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have a parting shot?
No, just to say that I think we should aim for our lives to have purpose. I think purpose is really what satisfies. And whereas money is important and progress is important, maybe the parting shot could be a passage in Psalm 37 that says, "Better the little that the righteous has than the wealth of many wicked. For the God upholds the righteous, but the arm of the wicked will be broken." So it is God actually breaks and works against those who do wrong things and go by crooked means. Because when you're doing something crooked, you're doing that to somebody who is made in God's image, who God cares about. And God hates injustice.
He does.
But he loves justice. So better the little with blessing. It's the blessing of the Lord that maketh rich and adds no sorrow, rather than being too smart and deciding to take crooked rules. And if you live your lives with purpose, with character as well as competence, and having meaning and not just looking after money, you'll find that it gives satisfaction in the here and in the future, and it has much greater impact for those around you and even for all the generations after
that will follow.
That
is so powerful. I'm going to read my Bible again, just to be sure. But I know this is, but I just want to be sure. But it's so grateful, and it's so just amazing the way you articulate it, because that's it. It's that simple. We have to do more. We have to do more, and we have to do what's right.
Amen.
We really must. Thank you so much for coming on, Just Angie. Thank you for honoring our invite. God bless you guys. Bye. Get the book. Get the book when it's out. Make sure you get the book and leave a legacy that endures beyond and forever. I love it. Bye.